Good afternoon. I'm League member and Voter Services Co-Chair, Deborah Scheinman, and I will be the moderator for County Commission District 1 panel. Welcome, candidates, and thank you for joining us today. There are two candidates for County Commission District 1 seat that will appear by name on the general election ballot. They are Mary Alford, Democratic Party, and Ramey Eagle Glen, Republican Party. Alachua County Commissioners are elected for a 4-year term with no term limits. Seats are elected by the county at large, so all registered voters in Alachua County, regardless of where you live, may cast a vote for all county commission races. At the time of the election, candidates must live in the district that they would represent. The format of the forum will be as follows. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes for their opening statement. Following the opening statements, I will read questions prepared by the League. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer, and there will be 6 questions total. I will rotate the order in which the candidates respond. Then each candidate will have 1.5 minutes for a closing statement. Candidates will be able to see the timer, who will indicate the remaining time at 30 seconds and stop. Please stop when your time is up or your microphone may be muted. We will now begin with the candidates' opening statements. You each have 1.5 minutes, and we will begin in alphabetical order with Mary Alford.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us for this forum and to help citizens of Alachua County determine who the right people that reflects their views are. I also want to thank everyone that has been sending positive thoughts and prayers for my mom. She is now out of ICU and is in the hospital and should be released, we're hoping, in the next few days. And I really appreciate it. I know many of you guys knew about it, and I really, really appreciate your support. Yeah, my mom's a tough lady. She had 9 kids. I was the oldest of 9, raised right here in Gainesville, Alachua County. I went to PK Young. I went to the University of Florida and Santa Fe College, and graduated with a degree in engineering. I actually went back to school after getting married young and having 4 kids, and ended up with my master's of engineering when I was 40, and opened my own firm about 13 years ago, specializing in sustainability. I'm running on a platform of sustainability, maintaining our current infrastructure, roads and buildings, and finally planning for a resilient future in the face of climate change and political upheaval. We need to have good planning. Thank you very much.
Ramey Eagle Glen, your statement, please.
Good afternoon, Alachua County voters. I'm very thrilled to be here addressing you. My name is Ramey Eagle Glen, and I am running for Alachua County Commission Seat 1 because I love freedom and justice for all. That is a slogan that is personal to me. I practice civil rights law, and freedom and justice is what I do. I decided that I needed to run to bring more jobs, more freedom, and security to Alachua County. Number 1, jobs. Through jobs and through equal access to opportunity, we can lift up all members of Alachua County. We live in an area of very highly skilled, highly educated people, and not everyone earns a college degree. We need to unleash the economic potential of Alachua County to bring job opportunities for all members of our community. Number 2, more freedom. We need freedom, myself as a small business owner, for all small business owners of Alachua County to be able to fill those positions and to bring prosperity to our county. Number 3, security. It is the government's number 1 role to provide security through our law enforcement and first responders. And as your county commissioner, I will prioritize security for our county. Thank you.
Thank you both. We will now move on to our prepared questions. You will have 2 minutes to answer. The timer will indicate when you have 30 seconds left and then indicate when your time is up. We will start with the second candidate alphabetically and then rotate the order in which candidates will respond to the questions. For our first question, we will begin with Ramey Eagle Glenn. What is the most pressing problem facing Alachua County government, and what are your recommendations for resolving it?
Our number one problem and our number one priority going into fiscal year 2021 is the economy. And in order to unleash the economic potential of our area, we need to cut the bureaucratic red tape. We need to allow small business owners, large business owners, corporations, and industry to thrive in Alachua County. There has been an anti-growth attitude and anti-growth policies in Alachua County for 2 decades. And that has frozen the potential of Alachua County in time. On the ballot is a proposed measure to allow the government to have more control over our private property and over our land in this community. We do not need more government control in Alachua County. We need less government control. When the government gets out of the way of our private lives and out of the lives of businesses, we can have prosperity, and that prosperity, people getting jobs, people having access to home ownership, increases our ad valorem tax base, increases the tax revenues that we get from sales tax. And we are gonna need it in fiscal year 2021. We're also gonna need a county commissioner who's gonna go and look at that budget and get back to the basics. We need to reprioritize what it means to have a government working for us and not a government that considers us customers. The fiscal year 2021 budget actually had a proposal for a green administration building. That will not happen on my watch. I would not promote any such thing as that. Our roads are in disrepair. We have calls to defund the police, defund student resource officers, and that does not reflect the priority of the majority of the people in Alachua County.
Mary Alford, your response.
Thank you. I agree with Ramey. The economy is the biggest concern going forward. We are in the middle of a pandemic. Many businesses have been impacted. Many individuals have been impacted. But the number one thing that we need to do in order to move forward is to help people feel safe. People aren't going to go to restaurants, go out to businesses and spend their money until they feel safe doing that. And that's going to require careful attention by the county commission. With respect to growth, we have been growing. Alachua County is growing by over 1,000 people a year, a 1% growth rate. That's a nice, healthy growth rate. And we need to make sure that that growth happens in a planned and controlled way. If we allow everyone to build whatever they want, wherever they want in the county, then we risk damage to our water, unplanned infrastructure impacts. We need controlled growth, and that's one of the things that I hope to bring as an environmental engineer to the table. It's going to not be a fun time to be a commissioner. We know we're going to have budget shortfalls. We know that the tourism tax, the gas tax, has been impacted by the pandemic, and we're going to have tough decisions to make. And I will bring my management background to the table and help make those decisions in an equitable and sustainable way. Thank you.
Our next question starts with Mary Alford. What strategies would you propose to prepare the county for the in-state migration from South Florida?
Well, that is a nice, previous question was a nice lead in for that. We are already seeing migration from South Florida. I own an architecture and engineering consulting firm, and we get several calls a week from people that are moving up from South Florida that would like to build their home here in Alachua County because they're attracted by the University of Florida. They're attracted by the culture here and by the nature with springs and, quite frankly, our government is attractive. However, if we have a Katrina-like event anywhere south of here, we could be like Houston, seeing thousands and thousands of refugees show up at our doorstep. We need to have a plan for that. I was very disappointed to find out that a year ago I was invited to a forum where Alachua County, City of Gainesville, the University of Florida all sat down to do climate disruption planning. I was very disappointed to find out that was the very first time they had sat down to do that planning. We need to really get on the ball with this, and this is an emergency management plan that needs to be updated. It needs to be shared with the citizens, and we all need to understand what could happen and what should happen if it does. Thank you.
Ramey Eagle Glenn, your response?
Thank you. It goes back to my first priority, jobs. We need to have jobs for people to fill positions in Alachua County. We want the people to come up from South Florida and to become permanent residents and to be able to access purchasing a home. We do not want to further stretch and burden the existing taxpayers in this community. We are stretched. The middle class, the working poor, and maybe even some of the higher salaried people in our community see that we are a very high taxed municipality with access to jobs, with people coming up from South Florida. We want them to become permanent residents who are adding to the ad valorem tax base. And in order to have those jobs available, we cannot push away opportunities for business developers to come into our community and create the infrastructure and to create the access to jobs for all skill levels. I'm talking about advanced manufacturing, light manufacturing. We have access to some of the greatest healthcare facilities in the nation. So that's going to mean that we need people to be trained, and we can use private grant systems, let the power of the free market train this new base of taxpayers that want to come to Alachua County. We also can't keep freezing development out east. I'm an environmentalist. My mother is a boat captain, and I am a member of a Native American tribe. The environment takes priority in my life, but so does the rights of human beings. And the humans in Alachua County and the ones who are coming here want to achieve the American dream just like the rest of us.
For our next question, we will begin with Ramey Eagle Glenn. Do you think funds currently allocated to the Sheriff's Department could be spent more effectively to both ensure community safety and address concerns about social justice? If yes, what changes would you recommend? If no, what are your priorities for Alachua County law enforcement?
I see that there are positions that need to be filled with Alachua County law enforcement, and there is an opportunity to have satellite stations in all of our municipalities throughout Alachua County. And when we have our police officers and our first responders within close access to all of us, that creates equitable access to safe neighborhoods. Reallocating funds for student resource officers is something I am wholly against. I see that student resource officers in our public schools are an asset to children of all creeds and colors. Parents want their children to be safe. It goes back to that first priority of government. It's security. Yes, we want our kids to be educated, but if we fear sending our children to school, then we're all going to become homeschool parents. The law enforcement in our community needs to be supported by all of us. And the folks who I'm talking to around the county, the people who are going to vote for me to be their commissioner, want to support our law enforcement and our first responders. Security is a priority. And when I become county commissioner, I am going to go into that budget and make sure that our security through our law enforcement and our first responders is our #1 priority.
Mary Alfred, your response.
Thank you. I have a son that has schizophrenia, and before he learned how to manage that, he had an episode and the police were called, and he went to jail and ended up being there for months. And this has helped form my thoughts on how we could reallocate the funds in the sheriff's department. I believe that our first responders should sometimes be second responders, and the first responders should be people that are trained in the areas of substance abuse or mental health or social work. There are times when a police officer isn't the first and best person to send to a situation. And, you know, obviously these aren't situations where somebody is at risk of being hurt. But, you know, mental health counselors are trained to deal with situations that can be diffused, whereas a police officer is trained to prevent other kinds of incidents. So I would like to see those funds reallocated in that way. I also believe that by doing that, we'll reduce the number of people that are heading to the Alachua County Jail, and that will reduce some of our expenses there. It's ridiculous that we have so much private industry involved in our jail system, and it is a cost to especially our lower income folks. It's a real hard thing to have someone in jail because of the cost of communication, the cost of having adequate food and clothing is very it's ridiculous. You'd be surprised if you aren't aware. But anyway, thank you for the opportunity to answer that question. I hope you don't mind. I got a little bit personal.
Our next question starts with Mary Alfred. Should the Board of County Commissioners implement policies to improve access to affordable housing for low and medium or middle income families? If yes, please describe your plans and priorities. If no, please explain how you think lack of affordable housing should be addressed.
Thank you. You know, as the owner of a mission-based architecture and engineering firm, affordable housing is something that I work on almost daily, whether it's with folks like Habitat for Humanity or with private investors that are wanting to leave a legacy project. We've worked on many projects that have helped homeowners become homeowners and become homeowners of buildings that are energy efficient, that are safe, and that are comfortable. I would like to see a few things happen. I would like to see neighborhoods identified where we don't have houses being appraised at the value that would allow people to get loans to do upgrades that are needed to create safe, comfortable places to live. So providing a method of borrowing. It's fairly technical, but if you try to borrow money and your house doesn't appraise, and the bank isn't going to loan you money, so you can't create the home that you need to create. So that's a place that the county can definitely step in. I am in support of a housing trust, and I hope that that passes on the ballot. And I am also in favor of perhaps looking at providing incentives to have affordable housing all over our county and not just in certain areas. Neighborhoods work better when there's always someone there that, for instance, can deliver your pizza or ring up your groceries at the grocery store. People should not have to take public transportation across town in order to go to their job. So I believe that we should have a very diverse income distribution across the county. Thank you.
Ramey Eagle Glenn, your answer, please.
Decades of anti-growth policy by the Board of County Commissioners and the way that it's been made up politically has caused gentrification of historic African American communities. We saw the protests at Seminary Lane, where projects, perhaps fueled by the university, and those projects continue to be approved by the Board of County Commissioners to build in existing urban centers, causes the destruction of affordable housing, where they're replaced with transient student housing. And the character and the community of those areas is changing right before our eyes. As your county commissioner, I will welcome development further out east. People coming to Alachua County, people associated with the university, can go and commute or take a bus a little further out east instead of building on top of these historic areas that must be preserved. I also believe in creating tax incentives for developers. Developers want to come to Alachua County, and they can be given tax incentives to set aside certain areas, certain zoning variances for affordable housing. I do not necessarily believe that voting yes on a constitutional amendment that will further restrict developers is the answer. As a conservative, I believe in typically saying no to constitutional amendments, and these development projects for affordable housing need to be dealt with on a case-by-case basis. We need to partner with developers for affordable housing and see how they can benefit our community and what we can do to incentivize them to come and build here.
The next question begins with Ramey Eagle Glenn. Please describe how the county should balance business interests of housing developments and energy conservation.
Yes, I think I've touched on that a few times with my previous question, because going forward, jobs and prosperity is extremely important to me. I do love my hometown of Gainesville because of the canopies of trees. And we love visiting the springs and the lakes and the parks around here. But for so many Alachua County residents, life right now is not a walk in the park. And for so many small business owners, life is not a walk in the park. We're too busy trying to survive. We want to retain our employees. We want to create new positions. And we want to do that by maintaining the beautiful environment and the character of our community. The government needs to back off. As a business owner, I want to create new positions, more positions. We received a great benefit. We provide private healthcare with our private business. And this year, for the first time ever, our premium for our employees was lower. So what did that mean for my employees? They got a raise. When the government lets us build our dreams and build our businesses and incentivizes prosperity for all people, we can help people get those jobs, have good paying jobs. We can balance our beautiful conservation and our recreation so we have a happy, prosperous community where people are not struggling to make ends meet and they can go enjoy the springs, go enjoy the parks. The government needs to get out of the way, stop ruling over our land, stretching out the taxpayers. We're struggling. Please let us thrive, let us live, let us create the American dream, and let's lift up all people in our community to do that.
Mary Alfred, your response, please.
Deborah, may I ask you to repeat the question again? I kind of got lost.
Certainly. Please describe how the county should balance business interests of housing developments and energy conservation.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I worked for a good bit on the City of Gainesville's Renters' Rights Ordinance. This became important to me when I first became involved as a volunteer for Habitat for Humanity over 10 years ago, and we found that some of the Habitat for Humanity homeowners were having to choose between paying their utility bill and their house payment. And you know, that's not affordable. That's affordable housing should be measured by the entire cost of living in the home, not just the cost of the mortgage. So we worked with Habitat for Humanity to help them develop a home that was energy efficient and that could have affordable utility bills. Often we see GRU being lambasted for having these high rates that result in high bills. But the fact is that we have many, many rental properties in Alachua County and in the city of Gainesville that don't meet a standard of energy efficiency that would be considered code compliant by today's standards. I would like to see a renters' rights ordinance in the county that would be very similar to what is being proposed in the city of Gainesville. And I believe that having lived in other places around the state, other places manage to do this and not see exorbitant changes in rental costs. And I believe that we can do it here as well. Everyone deserves the right to be able to live in a comfortable space, and we shouldn't have to choose. We shouldn't have to give up where we live based on the fact that a property owner isn't willing to take the responsible steps to keep their buildings maintained and working well. Thank you.
Our final question begins with Mary Alford. The impact of COVID-19 is more prevalent and severe among people of color. What are your thoughts about this disparity? And do you think the Board of County Commissioners has a role in addressing it?
Absolutely. Well, I don't know if there is a medical reason why people of color are more likely to catch COVID-19, but I do know that people of color are disparately in positions that make them frontline workers. So whether that is the person that is ringing up your groceries or driving your Uber or working as a nurse in a nursing home or driving a bus, there's just so many different jobs that put people in front of hundreds of other people daily and increase their risk of contracting that virus and getting sick. Yes, the county commission has a role in this. The county commission has a responsibility to protect the citizens of Alachua County. We do need our economy to get back up and running. And the best way to do that is to do this like a private business would do it, which is to minimize the expenses and minimize the risk to employees. And so I'm not talking about employees in this case, I'm talking about citizens. So if we minimize the risk, then yes, we practice social distancing. Yes, we wear masks. And that allows us to go about our business in a safe way to keep our economy up and running while we protect those people that are at the highest risk, all of those people that are our frontline workers. It breaks my heart to know that a bus driver that was worked for 30 years here in Alachua County died of COVID-19. That's ridiculous because that person wasn't given the training and the resources and the protection that they needed to be able to do their job safely. We need to do that. That's our job. That's our responsibility. Thank you.
Ramey Eagle Glenn, your answer.
As county commissioner, I will follow the guidance and the orders of the governor and of the Centers for Disease Control. And I think that as Americans, we know how to care for one another. We take care of one another. We've always done that. And we have not necessarily needed the local government to tell us how to do that. As a civil rights attorney, justice is very important to me. And justice for the Black community is very important to me. I worked under the Obama administration on civil rights issues, not necessarily having to do with COVID, but for men who were incarcerated. So I understand that lifting up the Black community and helping them along is a top priority. As a civil rights attorney, also, Americans with disabilities are a top priority to me. And I have had hundreds of people reach out to me who are having serious issues physically and sensory and mentally with being forced to wear masks, to have to access food, transportation, and government services, and the stigma that they are experiencing from people in the community who are lashing out at them. We are Americans. We take care of one another. That is what our United States Constitution represents. And as a student of the United States Constitution, I want to apply that to all people in our community to protect them from government abuse. Let's take care of each other. Let's practice social distancing. Let's practice respect for one another. Let's wash our hands, and let's wear a mask if we can, but let's not point out and stigmatize that person who is not wearing a mask, because you don't know what's going on in their life or what happened to them in the past that may cause them to have a response of PTSD.
Thank you both for your very thoughtful answers to our questions. We will now move on to the closing statements, and each candidate will have 1.5 minutes. We will hear the candidates' closing statements in reverse order from the opening statements. And so we will begin with Ramey Eagle Glenn.
Thank you all for hearing me. And we are at a crossroads this year in Alachua County, and even as a nation. And I decided in June that I was going to take the battle for individual freedom and justice out of the courtroom and bring it to the ballot box, because people in Alachua County want access to jobs, not just the highly educated or the professionals, but people of all skill levels. People in Alachua County want their freedom. They want freedom to prosper and to achieve the American dream, with the government focusing on the essential services it is meant to provide, which is some basic security, some basic social assistance, and a heart of service to be a vessel for the will of the people. There are people in this county who feel cut off, that they have lived under a regime of taxation without representation for decades. That has gone on too long. As your county commissioner, I am going to reprioritize the budget, because we're going to need it like we never have. And one of the basic functions and services of government is our security. We need to support our law enforcement and our first responders, because they help keep our community safe, especially during this COVID time. Jobs, freedom, and security. Vote Ramey Eagle Glenn, like the bird, on November 3rd.
And Mary Alfred, your closing statement, please.
Thank you again for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to everyone. I've been preparing to do this job for over 10 years. After I lost my son to leukemia, I became concerned about people's access to medical care, and that got me involved in politics. I have served on multiple boards. I've served twice on the Environmental Protection Advisory Board and served as chair, on the Utility Advisory Board, where I was chair, on the Code Enforcement Board, where I sit on the engineering seat. I sit on the United Way board. I sit on Florida Defenders of the Environment, and on Cultural Arts Coalition, and on several other boards. I feel like I've learned about Alachua County at a whole other level. Like I said, I'm a 6th-generation Floridian. I've got 4 generations of my family living here in Alachua County now. They live in every corner of this county, and many of them don't vote the way I normally do. But they understand that running a county is often not a partisan activity. It is about getting the business done in a smart and responsible way. And I'm proud to have their trust and the trust of many people from across the county. Please visit my website, alfredforalachua.com. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to call or email me. My phone number is 352-317-4480. I welcome the opportunity to talk to any voter about any concerns they have. Thank you.